Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1048 of our daily content grind, and in the midst of San Diego Comic-Con dumping a ton of really cool news that we will be spending the weekend discussing, the first thing that was dropped, and our first order of business, is the brand new trailer for Transformers 1. Now, I have not watched this yet, and if you are clicking on this video hoping for a typical YouTuber, like, over-the-top, super excited reaction, you're not going to get that here, because I kind of value my channel and I don't want Paramount coming after it. So what I'm going to be doing is I am going to be pressing play on this video, but you will not see it. You will skip ahead until I'm at the end. I will give my immediate thoughts and my reactions of what I see afterwards, and then we will go through specific little scenes, little things that I have noticed. We'll more deep dive into it later on. But for now, I'm going to hit play on this. You guys are going to skip forward about 3 minutes in time, and I'll meet you on the other side. Okay. Immediate reaction is it's not nearly the tone of the first one. There's a little bit of quippiness to it, but not nearly as much. The topics are way heavier. The plot seems to be going in a completely different direction than I first expected after the first trailer. We got to break that down. We got to break that down in a little bit. Obviously, it's spoiler at this point, if you don't want to be ruined for the movie. It feels like the rise of Megatron and the Decepticons is going to be far more prominent in the movie than I expected. Almost to the point where it seems like Megatron's actually going to be the main villain above the Quintessons, which seemed like they were like the thing for the movie. Now I'm really curious about how the plot of this movie is going to flow. I had this whole thing in my head, like thinking like this is how the movie was going to work. I think I'm wrong. I think the pace is going to be much quicker than that. Okay, okay, let's go back. Bumblebee's the most quippy one. Things that immediately jump out at me is, they didn't use any licensed music for this trailer, which is good. This actually felt like it was on tone. As I said, way more serious. We got to see some extra Transformers in the mix. That was pretty cool. So I will admit, I was already kind of optimistic about the movie because it's doing something different. We're doing live action, we're not doing live action, we're doing animation. We're doing CG Transformers in the big screen. That always seemed to be where their niche really should have fallen, and that was exciting to me. The quippiness of the first trailer was a little bit off-putting. The use of the licensed music was a little bit off-putting because it felt like off-tone and wrong for the franchise. This feels more like what I was expecting. It's a level of humor that I'm not unfamiliar with in normal Transformers, so that's fine. There's a little crude humor in it. We'll get to that in a bit. But no, like, this is much more what I was kind of hoping for. This is, like, on point. This has me more optimistic for the movie, as the screen once again reminds me that I'm going to be out of town on September 20th. I'm going to be at TwitchCon. So good luck getting an immediate reaction to this movie from me. I got to figure that one out too. Okay. Let me go through the trailer again. I'll grab some screen caps and we will talk about it in a little bit more depth. Okay. So once again, I will see you in what is my future. And welcome back. Now it is time to look at some screenshots and deep dive into the trailer and pick out all the new details and discuss all the new facets. So the first thing we see in the trailer is the fact that it's Optimus and Megatron throwing down. And the voiceover from Optimus talks about, how they used to be best friends, etc., etc. But now we've been at war for thousands of years. So now that tells me, okay, the movie is probably going to begin with Optimus and Megatron just laying into each other, and then just the narration in Optimus's voice going, how did it come to this? And the movie's essentially going to be a flashback, which I didn't expect. I knew we would see Optimus and Megatron at some point, but I assumed that would be like after the main story, and we get to see like what has become of these two. but we're going to do it the opposite way. We're going to, feels like we're starting with here's Optimus versus Megatron, and then we're going to transition into Orion and D16. That's the feel I'm getting from it so far, which throws off my predictions a little bit already. On top of a lot of other stuff. There, the same movie talks about, like, we'll get to that in a bit. We'll get to it in a bit. Because, man, there's a lot to go over here. I'm just going to say it. Now that we have some, like, bright shots of Cybertron, where we can actually see the detail, I love the design. I absolutely love the look of Cybertron in this movie. It actually looks like they've gone through a lot to make it look like a living metal world, which is fantastic. It's way better than whatever that honeycomb thing in the original live-action movies was. I still hate the live-action Cybertron, both times that we saw it. Like, the first time looked really dumb, and then the second time looked even dumber. And then, like, no in-canon rationalization for the difference between the two. Which, by the way, yeah, there's, none of this detail is on either one of those Cybertrons. So, I'm going into this movie imagining that it is completely disconnected from the live action. That said, I know San Diego Comic-Con is going on right now. My friends have actually been at the panel that showed this trailer for the first time. Bonaventura was on the panel answering questions, and he's still talking like this is a prequel and that all the live-action movies are in continuity with each other. No, they're not! Embrace the reboot and shut up and stop showing up to these things. No one wants to hear from you, you moron. Just keep paying for the movies and we'll be fine. I don't like Bonaventura. I don't. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We got a name. This is actually Darkwing. And number one, cool that they're bringing in a somewhat deep cut from G1, but also, is Disney going to be okay with you dropping the name Darkwing? Because guess what? You're not going to be able to make a toy of him. It's going to be Blackwing like it was the last time we did this. Last I checked, isn't Disney doing something new with Darkwing Duck? Unless it got canceled like everything else good that station was doing. But still, like, that's a Disney trademark. I don't know. I think I'm just happy that, they're including some other characters. It's not just the 84 cast. It's not just the most familiar, recognizable ones. They're throwing some deep cuts in there. And it's nice to know that Arachnid is not the only one. We're actually getting Darkwing. No Dreadwind anywhere in sight. Leave it for a sequel, I guess. The humor in this trailer, like I said, is not nearly as, like, over the top or cringe. But, Prime was doing a middle finger joke, which, kids movie, can you not? It just feels out of place. Aside from the fact, why would Cybertronians know what a middle finger means? I will accept the fact they're speaking in English for the sake of having to understand the movie, but really, that's a little, that's a bit much. Like, that takes me out of it. That's the kind of joke that, like breaks my immersion. I don't know. It's beneath Prime. Even if it's young Orion Pax, I still think it's beneath him. We got a little bit more focus on the plot. So, originally, I kind of assumed that, them breaking away to the surface was just them, like, defying orders because they're told no one goes to the surface. And, Orion is just being rebellious, just trying to, just getting into trouble and having fun. But apparently they've got a message. Apparently there is an actual message from the surface, and that's the reason why they went. There's only 3 people in the room. It's D16, Orion Pax, and B127. I will refuse to give him the name that he really wants to be called. He is B in this movie. You'll notice no Elita 1, because from what we've heard originally, she joins up while they're on the train. As more of an incidental. So, yeah, we get a little bit more of a we get more of a time frame here. So, yeah, like, there's a little bit more focus to the plot than I thought, so that's good. And it's Alpha Trion. We know that Alpha Trion. From here, the trailer does break off and start doing a lot of the scenes that were in the first trailer, but you don't have pop music going on top of it, which is great. It sounds way better without it. And it's taken a little bit more seriously, given a little bit more of a oomph, like a little bit more like a resonance. And there's a few scenes that are recycled and we're just given better looks at them for the first trailer. The Quintesson threatening Sentinel Prime, which the Quintesson thing is very diminished in this trailer. Like outside of that scene, I don't remember seeing any new scenes of them outside of like maybe a sky full of their ships. But ultimately, like, I was under the impression that we were going to get Quintesson Army versus United Transformers, who would then split into Autobot and Decepticon. But the tone of this trailer makes me feel like the Quintessons are just there. They're just a plot point in order to deviate Optimus and Megatron's ideals. And the real big battle, the real big fight scene at the end is between new Autobot and Decepticon factions. And we know Decepticons get formed in this movie because we hear Megatron actually shout Decepticons. So yeah, there's more to this trailer and this plot than I expected. So that's actually kind of cool. We got some better looks at some of the characters. Here's our waves of Shockwave and Soundwave. I really like how Shockwave looks. Shockwave, big chest, wide shoulder, actually works. It adds to his intimidation factor that he should have. I'm not feeling Soundwave's design as much. It's too blocky in the chest. I understand that's probably because the toy is going to have to store a toy or a gimmick of some kind. So I get it. He's a little bit bigger in the chest as a result. And it still does the job, but I don't know. It's not my favorite take on Soundwave. If we look in the background, we do see some cameos from others. You can see two jets that absolutely look like Skywarp and Thundercracker, albeit with visors instead of individual eyes. It could be a distance thing. It could be like just a different detail for this universe. Either way, color-wise and form-wise, it's definitely them. Let's see what else. We got one on the far left. It's a little bit cut off on my screen, but I don't know, it looks like a Red Seeker. So we got plenty of generics in here as well. One that took a lot of focus is Arachnid. We got a good close-up of her, and she is looking really, really good. I like the redesign. She's some kind of VTOL vehicle in the movie. If I am reading some of the scenes correctly. Her scenes go very, very quick. In fact, we're going to talk about one of them here in a few minutes. But it's a little bit hard to follow what's going on with her. But it is cool to see. I like that they pulled a deep cut, which might actually get us a good Arachnid toy. I'm pulling for a Studio Series Deluxe out of this. Please have enough prominence in the movie to actually get that. Of course, it's Studio Series. They will pick any toy or character that has actually been in the movie longer than 4 seconds. I'm looking at you, Snarl. You had 5 seconds in the movie, so you technically count. All right. A big focus on the trailer was just demonstrating how violent Megatron is. Here we can see him threatening Starscream's life for the first of many times in their history. You can also see other cameos in the back. That's absolutely Dirge back there. Yeah, they're really playing it up that while Optimus and Megatron, as Orion and D16, were best friends, there is ideology difference, and when it comes time to actually battle a war, presumably against Quintessons, there's a very big difference in how they handle this. You know, and this is a first example of Megatron leading through fear, rather than any actual, rather than the more tactical Optimus Prime. Yeah, there's a lot of focus on how brutal this Megatron can be. A lot of demonstration of his arm cannon, by the way. A lot of demonstration of the arm cannon. See, we have another shot here. This is just a close-up of Orion. We got a few more in the back. You know, we got someone with that Darkwing head, the generic mouth plate and visor. We've got a Teal Seeker in the back, it looks like. We've got Thrust over his right shoulder. No surprise, they are just breaking out all the Seekers to fill out crowds. That's Transformers. That's how we always have done things, not a surprise. Speaking of arm cannons, here's the shot of Megatron, and what's interesting to me is like this is still a more rounded Megatron design. So, uh, what's interesting here is like there are a few different looks for these characters. So, like Optimus Prime is shown both pre-cog, post-cog, and then as Optimus Prime, and D16 likewise is shown pre-cog, post-cog, and then there is a much heavier and more squared off version of his design to represent Megatron. And we see that in the early part of the trailer. It's the version you see with a triple barreled fusion cannon on his arm. The single barrel seems to be based on his normal vehicle mode that we'll see throughout the movie. What's interesting to me is the fact that Megatron here has actually carved the Decepticon symbol into his chest. You recall, part of his story here is the fact that that symbol, that mark, is on his left shoulder. And there is some reverence to that because he discovers like an ancient Decepticon symbol, like amongst the ruins with Alpha Trion, I presume. So he knows there is some deep significance to it. We don't know it yet from the trailers, but it's apparently enough that at some point he just scratches it into his chest. I'm kind of curious why. This feels like it's post-turn from... it's after D16. It's after he's become Megatron. And then this shot. Here's the full Megatron design. We had got a great look at it. What's notable to me is like now the Decepticon symbol isn't anywhere on him. I don't see it on his chest. I don't see it on his shoulder. Now this might be from like just a rendering thing. This might be like that might be one little detail because apparently like there's actually early screenings going on right now. Like, some people have gotten to see this 2 months in advance. Obviously, I don't get an invite because I will openly bash Hasbro if I feel like they deserve it. But from what I've heard of those early screenings, the movie's not quite finished yet. So there's some details that have yet to be applied. It wouldn't surprise me if things like that Decepticon symbol on the chest isn't one of those. If only for the sake of, like, keeping it vague where all this happens in the movie. I think the more notable thing for me here, and another reason why I do not think this is a prequel to the movies, is like I kind of assume that at some point, the fact that Cybertron has an upside down layer inside of it, where like towers that go from the top down, I kind of assume that would come into play more often because later depictions of Cybertron and traditional ones never have anything like that. So I was actually kind of curious if, like, is there something in this movie where, like, the outer layer of Cybertron peels off and it starts looking much more like the traditional one with the exposed towers and, like, that big hole that goes all the way to the center? Or, like, if the outer shell falls away and it starts looking more like the ones from the other live-action movies. Like, that's kind of where my head was going. But apparently not, because this is absolutely post-Quintesson fight. This is absolutely Megatron here. And obviously... the upside down towers are still there. They could be doing this to throw you off. This could just be something they rendered for the trailer and the final render doesn't have that. I'm just spitballing into the wind here. I have no reason for this other than like it's just a continuity thing with the I was gonna say live action movies. This isn't live action. The theatrical Transformer universe. But then again, that universe is horribly inconsistent, so no surprise. Here's Arachnid and Elita 1. Now, they got a really cool fight scene that we got a glimpse of in the trailer. Unfortunately, this is kind of what I feared. I kind of feared that the whole reason Arachnid was in this movie was so Elita 1 had another girl to fight. And I kind of hate when they do that. Just let the characters fight. If she, it's not a bad thing to depict Elita 1 being able to take Soundwave in a fight, I don't know. It just feels... weird. It just feels weird. Like, it really just, it's like, I hate when they do things like that. Because, like, in the other live action movies, there's always some character where literally the only reason they exist in the plot is so Bumblebee can look really good when he kills them. That's Nightbird. That's Ravage and Ravage had a little bit more significance, but like that's Stinger. Obviously, that's Stinger. Things like that, and it just kind of bugs me. You know, because it doesn't feel like you're taking the character seriously. It just kind of feels like you're throwing him in just so they can be a punching bag and make another character look cool. It's not great. It's not great. You know, I don't know. Is it wrong that I just want Elita to actually be able to stand up to like a male character? Because that's kind of that's kind of the vibe I get, and I don't like that vibe. But really, that's maybe my only negative takeaway from the trailer. Other than that, like, it's really cool. It's a really good second look at the movie, and the tone is so different. This kind of gives me that vibe of, okay, the movie might actually be the tone I'm looking for. This might actually pan out to be a really solid take on Transformers. I already kind of had that opinion, but a lot of people didn't, and I'm hoping this changed a few minds because it is a much better delivered trailer, and I like the tone of it way more. This has me way more intrigued about how the movie's going to play out versus how the first one went. So, I am leaving this trailer with a lot more optimism, appropriately enough. But you're free to believe what you want, and you're free to let me know in the comments below how it was for you. So, with that out of the way, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.